Introduction to Iron Heart for Weak Women. Chapter 1. Weak Women and Love Flowers. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The winter in the third new Tokyo is getting colder and colder. Although it was only November, the sky in Tokyo was filled with heavy snowflakes. The trees in the school courtyard are still covered with green leaves, and the light snow mercilessly presses on them. Heavy, making them very dangerous. November is such a bad season. For someone who travels to an island country after death, it is truly a terrible season. Most students in the third new Tokyo are enrolled in April while stepping on cherry blossoms. And a small number of people enroll in the cool October. Whether it is most April births or a small number of October births. At the beginning, everyone was accompanied by alienation and unfamiliarity. But within a short month, one can find friends and groups. And it quickly fixed down, like soft cement turning into hard bridge columns. I can't tolerate others joining. I, who only enrolled in November, am extremely unconventional. Here, it is difficult for students without friends and groups to survive in school, but it is not the case if they have no companions. Xia Tingfei looked at the girl sitting in front of her, and the words, "folding wing bird," that only she could see flashed over her head, landing on her short linen hair. The girl's soft short hair is a beautiful linen color, and although the slightly fluffy tip of her hair falls on her shoulders, it cannot cover the fair back of her neck when she lowers her head. It is as fair as snow outside the window, reflecting a sparkling white light. She has a typical teenage face, curved eyebrows, and sparkling eyes. More mature than the girls around her, yet more childish than adults. Having a beautiful face should naturally become the focus of the class. Even becoming very famous in school. But it was because of his speechless, heartless, and expressionless personality that he quickly went from the top level of the school, which should have been popular, to the bottom level where no one paid attention to him, just like himself. Silent and introverted. As a matter of course, let her bear the name of a weirdo. She, Chiyue Kana, can barely be called her companion. Although she doesn't know herself. Even the two of them didn't say a word. Folding wing bird, countdown to death. 1 month, cause of death. Death due to hypothermia, triggering task. Save her. Change her doomed fate, give her a strong heart of steel and iron. Reward. Life expectancy. 1 month. Small chance to obtain. Love flower. There is a chance to obtain based on the completion level of the task love flower. S.level reward, possessing some fantasy ability that cannot exist in reality. Can control the heart. Xia Tingfei looked at the exclamation mark on Chiyue Kanai's head and turned his pen. This ability is similar to that of a feng shui master or fortune teller in a previous life. After crossing over, one can see the label on a person's head. And you can see tasks that look like a game. Tags are mostly a person's fate and fortune during this period. And tasks will come in various forms. Sometimes it's necessary to change their fate, sometimes it's just a matter of pulling back the children's balloons from the trees. Completing tasks can earn rewards. But Xia Tingfang's most accomplished task was only to help the elderly on the street solve their troubles. The most obtained amount is a small amount of money. This kind of lifespan reward is the first time. Not to mention fantasy ability. He wants it, he longs for it. But how do we get close to such troublesome 3 girls? They are like warriors wearing thick armor, difficult to break through their defenses. Whether it's the coincidences in comics or the detestable and gentle Asaxi in anime, they will all be ignored by them. So, why don't you follow her? Xia Tingfei turned his pen, waiting for the bell of the end of school. This is the second and last class in the afternoon. Everyone can't wait anymore. Time flashed by in the anticipation of everyone, and the old bell for the end of class rang. These high school students rushed out of the classroom with their backpacks all at once, and they all had to participate in club activities or go there with their friends to play. For them, a beautiful life has begun again. But for Hinata Kana, this is a pain. Leaving school is a pain. But there is also no place for her to stay in the school. Her grades are not considered poor, but they are also not good. In the class, there are only a dozen or so students. She left the classroom with her backpack on her back. And Xiatingfei swaggered behind her like this. It's not that he doesn't understand tracking, but it's unnecessary. Extreme favoritism and extreme hatred can be reversed, so now all you need to do is establish a connection with her. Xiatingfei thought so and followed behind the girl. It's not too close, because it's too much like a fool. But it's not too far, because it's easy to get lost. Chiyue Kana's temperament is too special, and even a slight distraction can make it difficult to find her. Just like this, I followed behind Chiyuki Kana at a slow pace. It's not like those high school students rushing to the nearby club building. They are like two reefs amidst a crowd of people. The name of the school is Meichin Academy, which is not considered a very good school among the many schools in 3rd New Tokyo. As the main teaching building, it has 6 floors, but they are all buildings from many years ago. The corner of the window was covered in red rust, and the shoe cabinet on the first floor was made of old wooden shoe cabinets. There is no cabinet door, only shoes can be placed. Instead of having cabinets with gaps like other good schools, it can become a place for many high school students to secretly submit love letters. Chiyue Kanai's shoes are a pair of Mary Jane round toe leather shoes, which were distributed to every girl by zhaozhuyuan.com when she enrolled. But because it is too hard, it is easy to wear down the ankles and is disliked by everyone. In school, it is almost impossible to see anyone wearing these shoes. Chiyue Kanai stood on the wooden grid pedal, bending down and carrying the Mary Jane shoes while wearing them. The smooth 60D long socks worn on the palms of her feet allow her to wear them without the hassle of using shoe paddles. But you also need to support the shoe cabinet and lift your legs to bump your toes, in order to adjust to the appropriate position and prevent the shoes from wearing your ankles. Xiatingfei stood next to the shoe cabinet, waiting for Chiyue Kanai. Like a lover, not anxious. Chiyue Kana glanced at Xiatingfei, but didn't say anything. He withdrew his gaze and walked towards the outside of the school with his legs open. The school is still floating with heavy snowflakes like goose feathers, and students are gathering snow to have snowball fights. But soon, he was scolded by the disciplinary committee. Mary Jane's shoes left small footprints on the thick snow. These white snow layers make a clicking noise when stepped on flat. Xiatingfei saw some snow falling into the shoes through the gap between her feet and Mary Jane's shoes. She had only walked 110 meters, and Chiyue Kana's feet were soaked. The color penetration of the skin is not considered as thin 60D stockings, flickering. Xiatingfei followed behind. But Chiyue Kana didn't seem to care. She just kept moving her legs without stopping to question why Xiatingfei was following her. There is no ordinary girl who, after noticing someone following her, hurriedly accelerates her steps. It's very strange. Chapter 2. Girl and Snow and Autumn Zero. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A girl, in her prime of youth. When encountering such a situation, even if the person being followed is one's own classmate, even if it is the classmate sitting behind oneself, I should also be very vigilant. It is natural to call the police or shout loudly. Even, she should pull the alarm tied to her backpack bag. This type of alarm designed specifically for children only needs to be pulled to produce a piercing buzzing sound. However, the pink alarm was just hanging on top of the backpack like a decoration. Did you relax your guard because you were classmates? No. Rather, it is precisely because of classmates that one needs to be more careful. But why? Is Chiyue Kana a girl with a delicate face and full of charm, so indifferent yet motionless? What is she hiding? Xiatingfei pondered and looked around. No. This is not the way back. Chuyue Kanai's home should not be here. Xia Tingfang stopped and looked around. It's already a bit far from school. This is a small park, one of the countless small parks established earlier due to the Tokyo Metropolitan Governor's green rate policy. Although it is a park, there are only 2 or 3 sets of exercise equipment. Even the horizontal bar, which children love the most, is covered in red rust at the connection, giving it a tattered appearance. The only commendable thing is the large sand pit, where many young parents nearby bring their children to play in the sand. By the way, let the child make some friends. But idle parents gather together to gossip, such as family gossip, which can be annoying and incomprehensible to children. But in winter, there are no mothers who come here with their own children. Because the child is too weak, it is the mother's treasure. Whether it's catching a cold or a cold, it always makes them particularly worried. In the past, the chaotic ground was covered with a thick layer of snow, appearing incredibly white. Appearing extremely cold. Chuyue Kanai stepped over the short railing used to separate the park and the road, and walked straight towards the swing. Rusty iron chains appear dark-colored seat plates due to being soaked in snow. Just by looking at it, you know it's an extremely cold existence. Whew! Chuyue Kana exhaled a few wisps of hot air and wiped away the thick snow on the board with her sleeves. But there was no other cushion on it, just sitting straight on it. The skirt with a black background and red plaid is squeezed against the seat board, hanging down along the dark brown seat board. Xia Tingfei frowned slightly, and female high school students should be more afraid of the cold. Sitting straightforwardly on a damp and cold wooden board like this can cause various painful reactions to the delicate body. As a girl, Chuyue Kana should pay attention to this matter. But she doesn't seem to care. Chuyue Kana is a girl who does not cherish her body. Xia Tingfei crossed the low railing and stepped on the footprints of Chuyue Kanai, walking straight to Chuyue Kanai's eyes. He squatted in front of Chiyuki Kana, deliberately provoking her and looking at her recklessly. Her beautiful linen short hair, covered in pure white snowflakes like bird feathers, fell onto her fair neck. Scratching through the wet snow, the school uniform was printed in large clusters of deep black. The skin between the 60D stockings and the black and red checkered skirt is even more dazzling than snow. However, there is a faint cyan purple color on this skin. It's a pity to frown. Even Xia Tingfei felt that his current appearance should be extremely disgusting. However, Chuyue Kana did not make any movements. Xia Tingfei reached out his hand and reached out to Chuyue Kana. But not towards the legs that could play for a year, but towards the eyes of Chiyuki Kana. Chuyue Kana's eyes were dark brown, like amber. However, it is far from the dazzling feeling of amber. Instead, it looks more like glass covered in dust. What caused this amber to be covered in dust? What are these dust? Xia Tingfei herself has a desire to wipe away this dust. I want to see this amber secrete water. I want to see her sparkling and translucent. Are you willing to kill for me? The girl spoke up. The sound is as faint as the beautiful light feathers in the sky. But in the words, it was surprising. But Xia Tingfei just blinked. The girl who can say such words is even more interesting. Just like those strange girls in the radio system, always carrying some interesting and cruel stories. Make Xia Tingfei very interested. Looking at Xia Tingfang not answering, the girl had no expression. Just repeated, "Are you willing to kill someone for me? If you can do it, I won't object to anything you want to do to me." The girl with beautiful linen short hair and amber-like eyes said so. Saying something may seem shocking to others, to the point where it doesn't seem like what a girl is saying. If any other boy is here, they will tell you they are willing. Xia Tingfei said, because for them, lying is enough to get a beautiful girlfriend, and finding a book garden at www.zhaoshuyuan.com is incredibly worthwhile. Chuyue Kana said nothing, and her eyes did not fluctuate. It seems that Xia Tingfei didn't say anything. If it were an honest boy, he would probably tell you that he doesn't want to, because their life is just beginning and they won't set their own life for you. Xia Tingfei paused and admired the girl's face. However, my answer is unwilling. Why make some excuses, said the young moon with drooping eyelids, because I am Xia Tingfei. Xia Tingfei stood up and swept away the snow on the nearby swing. He then placed his backpack on top of it before sitting down. I'm not afraid of killing or anything like that, Xia Tingfei looked at Chuyuegana. But a high school student doesn't find these words a bit ridiculous anymore. Xia Tingfei smiled and said, it looks like a secondary illness. Chuyuegana pursed her lips and said nothing more. Holding the cold iron chains in both hands, my heart feels as cold as snow. She began to dislike staying here and having someone by her side. However, even so, she was unwilling to return home. Where, it's even more terrifying. Xia Tingfei didn't care either. He held the iron chain and said, it's so cold, it's like touching a sword edge. After putting on his gloves, he started swinging on the swing. The creaking sound of chains rubbing against steel pipes made this quiet park seem a bit noisy. Let Chuyuegana frown and feel disgusted. But this beautiful and delicate girl just tightly pursed her pale lips. The fingers holding the chain have turned red from the cold wind. Chapter 3. Hot Milk and Cold Warehouse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kazizi, the lights in the park are on. The warm orange light shone on large areas of snow, and Chiyuki-kana could feel the heat of the light. Warm, like a hug. But I am about to leave. At night, there are security officers patrolling on bicycles. When encountering a girl like Chuyuegana, I definitely want to ask about it. She loosened the tightly held iron chain and stepped on the snow layer. Her long stockings are becoming increasingly moist. Xia Tingfang, clear layering can be seen. But it seems that Chuyuegana doesn't mind. She stepped on the snow layer, creaking. On her short linen hair, there is already a white layer of snow on her shoulders. Chuyuegana didn't slap or care, just walked straight like this. Like a snow elf, and also like a little snowman. Ha! Xia Tingfei couldn't help but chuckle. Chuyuegana, who was walking, stiffened and glanced at Xia Tingfei, who was following her. She reached back and patted off the snow layer on her shoulder. Rubbing his short hair again, shaking off the feathered snow. That short and fluffy hair looks like a cat with explosive fur. Ha! Xia Tingfei couldn't help but laugh out loud, thinking that the girl was very interesting. The two walked one in front and one behind, crossing 3 streets and crossing the Tier Bridge. Tier Bridge, a famous place in the 3rd New Tokyo. But it's not a good reputation, because on the other side of the Tier Bridge is the slums of 3rd New Tokyo. A low and ugly 1-story house with no fence in the yard. And there are pipes spewing coal smoke, making the snow also black. The sparkling neon lights are out of place with the high-rise buildings of the 3rd New Tokyo. On this side of the Tier Bridge lies Tokyo, where the people on the streets, men dressed in neat suits, wearing shiny leather shoes, and every strand of hair delicately groomed, shimmering with light. Women, on the other hand, are fashionable and beautiful, almost unable to tell the age of everyone. A 40-year-old is comparable to a 20-year-old girl. On the other side of the Tier Bridge, there is what the 3rd New Tokyo people call a slum, with men wearing gray, mouse-like work clothes. Women wear OL suits, but they can't hide the fatigue of overtime work. My hair is messy, and I can only use cosmetics to cover up my dark circles under my eyes. Everyone is drunk. Chuyuegana stood on the Tier Bridge and turned around. But I found no figure behind me. That annoying person seems to have already left. Chuyuegana was not surprised, she just tightly packed her backpack strap and walked towards her home. On my shoulders, my short hair was covered with feather like light and heavy snow. On this side of the Tier Bridge, there is a street. There are many hot drink shops and cheap small restaurants here. Whether it's those who go to work from here to there, or those who come home from work from here. They all have to pass by here, so it can also be considered a lively place. A narrow shop, crowded with another shop. The hot drink shop is next to the Lamian noodles shop. Wives and grandmothers sell some bags of hot milk in the narrow shop. 2 bags of milk. Xia Tingfei patted 9 coins on the counter. Here, it's hot. After drinking it, my whole body is hot. The old lady used a clip to take out 2 bags of warm milk from the hot water basin, wiped off the water with a towel, and then handed it to Xia Tingfang. One bag has a red strawberry flavor, and the other has a blue blueberry flavor. Xia Tingfang looked at it but didn't take it over. Can't it be the same color? He lifted his head to look at the old lady. Haha. The old lady smiled and said, if it's for one person, wouldn't different flavors be better? If you want to give it to a girl, you can use this method of, our tastes are different. Let me taste yours to increase your liking. Xia Tingfei tilted her head and looked at the old lady. The old lady smiled happily and said, at your age, it was through such small gestures that my old man's face turned red. Thank you. Xia Tingfei took 2 bags of milk, and the heat passed through the thick gloves, making her palms hot. Remember to bring the girl to take a look. Please drink milk, the old lady shouted enthusiastically and waved her hands. Turn around and look at the tier bridge again. The snow is piled up on a tier bridge made of cold cement and steel, and the feather-like snow is easily stepped on with a string of small footprints. It is the footprint of Chiyuki Kanai. At this time, only Chiyue Kanai has left from the tier bridge. Who? Xia Tingfang exhaled a long white mist, stepping on small footprints and crossing the bridge of tears. Perhaps due to the low rise of houses and the backwardness of the region, the streets here are much wider than those on the tier bridge side, but also much dirtier. Xia Tingfang can clearly see that the courtyard without fences is filled with various miscellaneous items. There are also piles of round garbage bags piled up. A slightly better one, there will be a small warehouse in the yard. These small warehouses are only a few square meters in size. The height is only 2 or 3 meters. The top is asbestos tiles filled with mold, and the surrounding walls are dirty and dark gray. The cold wind can easily penetrate through the cracks, making the inside as cold as the outside. Zhaoshuyuan.com. In such a place, even homeless people would not choose to get inside. Following my footsteps, I arrived at a courtyard where I could vaguely see the number 5.5.1 on the snowy doorplate. In the warehouse in the yard, faint gasps can be heard. Xia Tingfang walked over and opened the door, his tall figure reflected on the small girl. The girl has beautiful brown short hair, a beautiful face with slender long eyebrows and lifeless eyes. Wearing a thin nightgown on her body, the ubiquitous cold air made her skin turn snow-white. Just like a girl who would use snow to wipe her body for fair skin. Extremely cold, the cold skin is full of piercing pain. But it also has unparalleled whiteness. The wrist is slender and beautiful, and the palms are red and swollen. Her ankles were pitiful, and her pale calves were covered in blue and purple lumps. It's not frostbitten redness or swelling. The girl lying on the dirty warehouse floor, her name is Chiyue Kana. This girl, who was as white as snow and as light as feathers in the park, is now lying on the floor of the dirty warehouse. The thin nightgown was stained with dust, and the pure white skin was stained with black dust. She closed her eyes and remained motionless like a corpse. But Xia Tingfei could hear her faint breathing and see the dense small protrusions on her pale skin due to the cold. He looked back at the room emitting warm orange light. The culprit who caused her to look like this is probably inside. That person is a stranger who broke into the house. Or perhaps her mother. Chapter 4. Help me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The girl with a plain white body and slight green spots curled up like a hermit crab without a hard shell. I closed my eyes in fear, but couldn't help but perk up my ears. Help me, her heart echoed with such thoughts, yet she was afraid of being rejected. Silence accumulates in the air, like the thick snow outside the door. The cold made the girl shiver. Kaka, Xiatingfei took out his phone, a cheap flip phone. A garbage phone with blurry photos that can see pixels. Click and click the button for taking photos. The flash and crisp photo prompt sound are on. Chuyue Kana was taken aback and shouted fiercely, "No." The voice was loud and sorrowful. "Please, don't look. Please." She prayed, clenching her fists tightly and accumulating them. Xiatingfei stopped his fingers and put his phone back in his pocket. That Chuyue Kana is silent again. Photos are enough. Xiatingfei looked out at the white snow, heavy and pure white like goose feathers. Chuyue Jedi was taken aback, her beautiful eyes fixed on Xiatingfei. Her lips moved, wanting to say something, but she didn't say anything. "Hey, you stinky little brat." A short-haired woman wearing a light-colored sweater appeared from the residential house, looking tired and angry, wearing a cheap transparent plastic slipper. "What have you done to my daughter?" She walked over angrily and stomped on the pure white snow like goose feathers, turning it into disgusting black. Grasping Xiatingfei by the collar, he pushed him out of the warehouse and slammed the dilapidated wooden door shut with a loud bang. The warehouse was once again filled with darkness, and Chuyue Kana curled up like a hibernating squirrel, hiding in the cave. The fluffy white snow on the top of the warehouse fell, covering the dirty black snow that women had stepped on. "You bastard." The woman raised her arm and was about to slap Xiatingfei hard. Xiatingfei opened the flip phone with her thumb and showed the photo she had just taken to the woman. "This is, your child, right?" The woman's corner of the eye twitched, and the girl in the photo looked pitiful with visible scars. "This is big news in the city. If published in a newspaper, it must be a front-page headline that can cause a sensation for 2 to 3 days. In this era when the internet is impacting the physical newspaper industry, those editors will love this photo. Especially those newspapers that target the elderly. The accumulation of those small pities can definitely easily crush this woman." "You bastard." The woman gritted her teeth and glared angrily at the child in front of her. Suddenly reaching out to grab the phone, Xiatingfei relied on her youthful figure to reach out and swing her leg towards the woman's calf. The woman fell uncontrollably to the ground, feeling disheveled all over. "On a snowy day, remember not to wear slippers when going out," Xiatingfei said. "With such heavy snow, it's easy to fall." "What the hell are you doing?" The woman's eyes were almost bursting with fire. "That's my daughter. It's nothing to do with you." "Oh." Xiatingfei responded coldly without any emotional fluctuations. "A woman feels undervalued and treated like a junior. If I pass on these photos to the Children's Protection Association, she won't be your daughter anymore. If I do something like this to your daughter, she will be deprived of custody, right?" The woman was taken aback and then became angry again. "That's my daughter, no one can take it away." Xiatingfei remained silent, slowly turning the woman's anger into fear. Chuyue Jedi in the warehouse listened to the arguments outside, and a glimmer of light slowly flashed through her gloomy heart. The deep heartbeat gradually began to roar. Don't worry, I won't send it out." Xiatingfei put his phone into his pocket, but what he said stunned the woman. "What is it? Women don't understand. Do you want to extort my money?" The woman looked wary. "No." Xiatingfei pointed to Chuyue Kana in the warehouse and said, "She and I are just classmates. After a few words, I will leave." After Xiatingfang said these words, the woman had no choice but to return to the room in a casual manner. "Open the wooden door of the warehouse." Chuyue Kana looked at Xiatingfang with a lifeless and indifferent expression, as if it were an ice sculpture. But she couldn't help but curl up like a girl. But she herself is a girl. Xia Tingfei stood in front of Chuyue Jedi, her shadow covering her body. Do you want to drink milk? Xia Tingfei stood up, and the heat from the milk in her hand dripped onto Chuyue Jedi's face, causing her eyes to tremble. Precious heat. Such a short word suddenly appeared in her heart. But she didn't say anything, just continued to curl up. Like a hermit crab hiding inside its hard shell, ignoring anything outside. This is exactly what she, as a girl, can do. A weak girl with scars all over her body, only wearing a white dress to cover her embarrassment. Her eyes were cold as ice, but she was by no means the kind of girl who looked like an iceberg. If she were such a cold and strong girl. I don't need to save myself anymore. Zhaozhuyuan.com. But she is false, fake. She is not strong, and her indifferent and silent posture is nothing more than the shell of a hermit crab. After her indifferent gaze, there was weakness. Perhaps there is still a little bit of deceiving oneself and numbing one's hopes. As long as I continue to endure, my mother will definitely treat me as gently as before. After growing up, one can leave on their own. As long as you escape to another city, you can escape such a miserable life. What a cowardly idea. Even though the pain on the body is about to exceed its limit, it is desperately enduring. It's really sad. Let me save you. However, it is not ordinary, condescending and vulgar salvation. I will give you weak women, the heart of steel. I will let you use your own fingers to open up a wide sky for yourself. I will give you the ability to change your own destiny. Do you hate it? Xia Tingfei looked into the girl's eyes, those empty and cold eyes. Are you suffering from a secondary illness? Chuyue Kana threw out this sentence. Just a high school student, just say something. It's really enough for a sophomore. This seems to be what I said before. Xia Tingfei smiled and pulled the Chuyue Jedi up from the floor. Do you want to come home with me? Although my home is not big, it is still spacious and spacious. He invited so much. On this late night, a boy invites another girl wearing only pajamas, such an invitation. Will anyone really agree? Chapter 5. Dark Figures at Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Are you pitying me? Chuyue Kana buried her face on her knee and didn't look at Xia Tingfei. Where do I need you to be so pitiful? Just tell my mother that even if I don't want to, I must go with you. What else did you ask me? Chuyue Kana spoke coldly, colder than snow and sharper than ice. Like a solemn call from a child to never speak to you again, with a childish displeasure and solemnity. If you could say these words to your mother, perhaps you wouldn't have to pity me at all. Xia Tingfei exhaled hot air and placed a bag of milk in her hand next to Chuyue Kanai, saying, it was given by an old lady. After speaking, Xia Tingfang walked out of the warehouse without hesitation and closed the door. It's so cold. He sighed. The snow that had just been trampled on by Chiyuki Kana's mother was covered with a layer of pure white snow. Xia Tingfei's home is located at 3.2.5, which is not too close to here, but a bit far. Walking on the asphalt road filled with snowflakes, only the high street lights on both sides illuminated the darkness. Stepping on the snow, crunching, is a bit of fun. Even though she is only a high school student now, Xia Tingfei is not afraid of being robbed or the like. It's not that I trust the order here, on the contrary, it's because it's a slum, with many small thugs and homeless people. His confidence was just a short red and white fire axe in his backpack. Without encountering anything, Xia Tingfei walked straight to his own home. He shook off the snow all over his body and took out the key to the anti-theft door. Because this is a slum, every household's door is equipped with thick anti-theft doors. And Xia Tingfang even installed anti-theft windows because he paid for them. Because people here only have the habit of installing anti-theft doors and not anti-theft windows. I'm back. He shouted at the entrance and pressed the yellow light bulb switch. The room is very small, and the living room can only accommodate a sofa, a table, and a TV, making it crowded and cramped. But although sparrows are small, they have all 5 internal organs. The kitchen, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms are all fully equipped. Randomly take out a bowl of leftover rice from the refrigerator, and then take out 2 eggs and put them in the kitchen to thaw. Xia Tingfang went into the bathroom and took a hot shower, then lay down in the bathtub. Ah! Tomorrow, after school, I have to go to work. I don't have enough money in my hands, he said in a tired voice similar to that of a social animal. He sighed and pondered where to get some money tomorrow. High school students like him can only work as temporary workers, with time constraints. The money is not bad, as long as you save a bit, it's still barely enough for your own use. But Xia Tingfei still wants to use his abilities to complete tasks and gain money. But working is a bit of a waste of his abilities. Xia Tingfei sighed and got up to leave the bathroom. After drying her body, she cut a small handful of leaves from the green onions planted on the windowsill in a water bowl and went to the kitchen. Pour a little bit of oil and beat in the eggs. After stir-frying the egg whites, pour in cold rice. When it's about time, add the scallions and stir-fry vigorously a few more times. Xia Tingfei got fried rice that he could barely eat. Stubborn, cold choking. He didn't pick, he ate it casually, at least it was a bowl of hot rice. Most people here don't eat much better than this, they mostly buy half-price bento from convenience stores that have passed the tasting period. There are no other advantages besides being cheap enough. Tomorrow, go to Morikawa to find some work to do. Yoshida District, although also one of the 13 districts of 3rd New Tokyo, is referred to as a rural area by the people of 3rd New Tokyo. Morikawa is a residential area located on the edge of Yoshida District, with numerous parks and abundant greenery. The scenery is the best in Yoshida District. The people living there are all elderly people, and the houses are also elegantly built by one household. Presumably, I am also more generous in my actions, and I am relatively easy to make money myself. Having made up his mind, Xia Tingfei casually ate the fried rice, put the dishes into the sink, and rinsed his mouth to get ready for bed. Checked whether the anti-theft door and anti-theft chain were properly installed, closed the windows, and pulled up the curtains. After checking the lights once, he finally returned to the bedroom. The bedroom bed is an extremely cheap wooden bed, lined with a thick mattress with weak elasticity. The blanket is plain white with plush. I woke up on this bed. At hand, there is only one admission letter, and the remaining useful one is this empty home. Without much thought, Xia Tingfei lay in bed, with a fire axe under his pillow, and fell asleep soundly. The night is like ink, and the moon is like a hook. I don't know how long it took, but the sleeping Xia Tingfang suddenly heard some kind of creaking sound, and he suddenly opened his eyes. Drunk men causing trouble. He had a thought in his mind, but then denied it. In such damn cold weather, which drunkard would come out to seek death? He carried a fire axe and bent down like a cat, silently opening the door and walking out of the bedroom. The entire house has only one inward-facing flat window in the living room, with inferior laminated glass on the window surface and aluminum alloy edges. Using a hinge switch, the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com is highly anti-theft, not to mention the presence of anti-theft windows outside. But even so, he dared not turn on the lights and could only crawl on the floor without making any sound, looking at the gray curtains that covered the window. The bright moonlight cast the shadow of the person outside onto the curtains. The tall figure should be an adult. He doesn't stumble between actions and shouldn't be a drunk. He carries a big bag behind him, which should contain heavy tools for committing crimes. Who is it? Is this the culprit who may have killed Chuyue Kana in the future? Xia Tingfei guessed in his heart, trying his best to look at the label above that person's head. As long as you see that label, you know who he is. My ability to easily see the label on the opposite head through a piece of paper. But it doesn't seem so easy to pass through a layer of curtains. Predator Xiatingfei, with her eyes wide open, saw the blurry label. This label is blood red and very ominous. Click click click. The door handle was constantly turning, and the steel locking tongue was constantly rubbing against it. This sound appeared extremely unpleasant on a quiet snowy night. The hands holding the fire axe tightened, and Xiatingfei dared not make any movement. For a long time, the sound finally stopped. Tisk. A very unpleasant voice came from outside the door. The person seemed to think that he had returned in vain, causing him to be very angry, so he had no choice but to let out such a resentful tsk. The person seemed to have given up, and the creaking sound of their shoes stepping on the snow gradually faded away. Xiatingfei slowly returned to his own house, carrying a fire axe. So, what will happen to Chuyuekana? Chapter 6. Please don't grab my hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the morning. Xiatingfei had already woken up and needed to handle the day's meals alone. What he usually makes is rice and vegetable roll, which are convenient and cheap. The process is usually to steam it in an electric rice cooker after waking up, and then wash it up. After using the time for washing up and dealing with miscellaneous matters afterwards, it's perfect to steam the rice. Hair, it's a bit long now. Xiatingfei touched his long hair, which was so long that it could cover his eyes. This length of hair already needs to be cleaned every day, otherwise it will become greasy. He sighed and said, I really don't have the money to get my hair cut. The cheapest haircut here is called 1,000 yuan haircut, which is only responsible for cutting and blowing. It's about the same level as the people who are familiar with cutting hair for old ladies and gentlemen in the park, usually done in 15 minutes. Don't expect to get a good haircut. Above, there is a beauty salon that takes off 4,000 yuan, but the most basic haircut requires 4,000 yen. If you need to wash your hair, you will need to pay extra. And a cheap one that is enough for one person to eat, stick it on, use natto okra cheese to cover the rice bento, only costs 380 yen. After 11 p.m., the half price will be even cheaper, while the cheaper one to buy tomatoes is 128 yen per piece. Xiatingfei realized that his family at this level did not yet need to afford the cost of a haircut. Just take some scissors and handle it yourself. Everyone is doing this, which has resulted in many short bald heads here. Alternatively, it's better to tie it up and talk about it later. Xiatingfei dried her hair, and after everything was over, the rice cooker had already spewed out white air. Take it out, sprinkle a little salt, and then repeatedly press it with the mold. Triangular rice and vegetable roll appear one by one. As for the soulful seaweed, Xiatingfei simply omitted it. Anyway, sprinkled with salt, it also has a taste. A total of a dozen rice and vegetable roll are packed in a bento box, which is today's breakfast and lunch. As for the half pot of rice, wait until the evening to cook fried rice. When I walked out of the door, the snow had already stopped. I walked around my own house, and the footprints around me were already covered in snow. The footprints under the anti-theft window have also been wiped off. Shaking her head, Xia Tingfang picked up her backpack and went to find Chuyuekana. The thick snow on the ground was not cleaned by a dedicated person. Being trampled black by people coming and going is extremely unsightly. Chuyuekana just walked out of the house. Wearing a black and red school uniform, wrapped in long stockings on his legs, and wearing Mary Jane leather shoes under his feet. The school uniform is plain, neat, and ironed without any messy wrinkles. As the hem of the skirt swayed, it was faintly visible that there was a faint blue-green-purple color in the area that was not wrapped in long stockings. Chuyuekana saw Xiatingfei and paused for a moment, but ignored her before turning around and leaving. Aren't you not seeing me now? Xiatingfei muttered inwardly, walking briskly forward and shoulder to shoulder with Chuyuekana on the snowy road. When crossing the Tier Bridge, the old lady selling hot milk saw Xia Tingfei and smiled, "Is this your girlfriend? She's such a nice little girl." "It's just a classmate." Xia Tingfei smiled and briefly defended himself. "I know everything, it was the same when I was young." The old lady smiled cunningly, and Xia Tingfei had no choice but to wave his hand helplessly. Chuyue Kana was extremely indifferent. Even when the old lady greeted her, she remained silent and walked forward silently. "Yesterdays you were much more lovely than now." With a snap, I opened my phone and retrieved yesterday's photo. Chuyue Kana lay on the floor, looking both tragic and beautiful. "Do you want to do it?" She stood still and turned to look at Xia Tingfang. The words in his mouth were shocking, but his face was indifferent, as if he was not talking about himself, but about someone else. The school uniform of Municipal Meichin is red and black. In winter, the innermost part is a sleeveless knitted shirt with a white shirt, and a suit-style uniform is worn on the outside. The neckline of the warm sleeveless knitted sweater is loose and quite large, leaving space for the bow. Chuyue Kana grabbed her collar and looked at Xia Tingfei. "Is my current image like this?" "You. Shit." Xia Tingfei sneered. "Isn't that what you want, isn't it?" Chuyue Kana's corner of the eye twitched. "You seem to be a bit presumptuous." Xia Tingfei left a sentence and crossed the chrysanthemum moon Kana without looking back. Chuyue Kana pinched the collar of her knitted sweater and tightly pursed her lips. "I hold a breath in my heart. Make a move." "Even though my eyes have been on my legs, I pretend to be indifferent." She walked briskly, stepping on the snow with a creaking sound. Suddenly crossing the Xia Ting gate, but without even looking at Xia Ting gate, he walked forward like this. The uniform leather book bag bounced back and forth in the girl's hand, just like her red checkered skirt. Burning out livestock, numb social animals, a restless housewife, drowsy high school students, ordinary elderly people. Xia Tingfei observed the tags of the people around him and found the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, which were just common tags. They are all ordinary gray-white tags, while yesterday's predator was red. The tag for Chiyuki Kana is pink. If gray-white represents ordinary, then red should represent danger, and pink represents special missions, right? Damn it, where is that predator? Is his target random or deliberately selected? If it's random and he doesn't succeed, will he be angry and retaliate against himself? Will he be staring at himself in the dark corner? If it was deliberately chosen, where did he know about himself? Perhaps he was right beside him, waiting for a better hunting opportunity. Anyway, it's possible that I'm being monitored. Xia Tingfei carried the long broad band of his backpack over his shoulder, and placed it at his waist. Insert your right hand into your backpack and tightly grasp the red painted fire axe. But not a single person around had a red head, they were all ordinary in vulgar gray-white. "Hello." Xia Tingfei quickly caught up with the girl. The girl did not stop her steps, but instead accelerated a bit. "Hey, so fast, your long stockings are getting wet through." Xia Tingfang grabbed the girl's slender and lonely wrist and forced her to stop. "I'm not calling, hello. Chuyue Kana watched as Xia Tingfang spat out words that were as cold as snow and as light as goose feathers. "Oh, is there any difference?" Xia Tingfei glanced around. "Also, let go of your hand." Chuyue Kana raised her wrist, her gaze piercing Xia Tingfei's hand. Chapter 7. Dangerous 8th Generation T-shirts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Look at it, you were pretty good last night." Xia Ting let go of his hand. "Oh, that's right." Chuyue Kana looked coldly and said, "It's incredibly cool at night, like a tuna in a cold storage." "Oh, that's quite valuable. Be careful not to be taken away by others like fish." Xia Tingfei replied. Intentionally, he was definitely intentional. Chuyue Kana pursed her lips and said, "I wish I could be taken away, to a city where no one knows me, no one knows me. That should be impossible. Xia Tingfei shook her phone, indicating that Chuyue Kanai's photo was still in her hand. As long as you send this to the Child Protection Association, they should be happy to protect you and happily send you to the detention facility. Xia Tingfei gave a wonderful smile and said, "You don't want to do this either." "Of course I don't want to do this." Chuyue Kana lowered her eyelids and looked sideways at the street. This place has already crossed the Tier Bridge, and on the gray cement road, the snow has been swept to both sides. The evergreen trees on both sides are still shaking off their green leaves. But nothing can change, can it? Chuyue Kana pursed her lips and stopped speaking. Just moving forward, it's not like those silent girls bowing their heads in inferiority, nor is it like those proud girls looking up their chin. Just plain like an ordinary person, walking towards the school in the cold wind. The girl's profile seems to be crying. Xia Tingfei held the fire axe in his backpack and walked safely to the school. "Good morning, Xia Ting." "Good morning, 8th generation teacher." Xia Tingfei bowed to the 8 Dynasties T-shirt and said hello. Spider of the thirsty web, the blue label made Xia Tingfei couldn't help but take a closer look, and Xia Tingfei rarely saw such a blue label. "What's wrong, are your eyes uncomfortable?" 8th generation T-shirt, looking like a good teacher, squatted down and carefully looked at Xia Tingfei. "It seems that the school doctor has already started work. Do you want to go?" Ba Dai T-shirt is a nearly 30-year-old male teacher wearing a neat black suit and a simple tie. However, this suit is somewhat outdated and eerie, bringing him a lot of kindness. "My hair is a bit fluffy and messy, like a typical single young man who doesn't know how to take care of himself. Like a teacher who can easily gain the trust of students. He is indeed very popular in school and loved by children. But these things are ineffective for oneself. Just being pricked by the sunlight, there's no need to trouble the 8th generation teacher," Xia Tingfei said as he walked past Ba Dai's side towards the campus. 8th generation T-shirt looked at the boy's back, with a hint of red in her eyes. The expression gradually became dangerous. 8 generations. Teacher. A student looks at the 8th generation T-shirt. Ah. 8th generation T-shirt came to her senses and looked at the student in front of her with the same smile as before. "I remember your name was." "Gang Shensi, teacher, my name is Gang Shensi." The boy answered nervously. "Oh, Oka Shinji," the 8th generation girl smiled and grabbed her hair. "What's up?" "Teacher, your expression was so scary just now." "Ah, maybe I didn't sleep well yesterday," said the 8th generation with a gentle smile. "But don't tell anyone." The boy answered nervously. Lowering his head and constantly looking at his toes, he nervously grabs his backpack bag. He's such an easy-to-handle good kid. The 8th generation shirt smiled, indicating that the boy could go in. Xia Tingfei stood in the shoe cabinet, changing into indoor shoes with a white body and green edges. Chuyue Kanai's cabinet was right behind Xia Tingfei. She bent down and folded, putting her round-toed small leather shoes into the shoe cabinet. The elasticity of the long socks is 90, which is thicker than what girls used to wear before. However, it is still long socks. The original school policy was that students could only wear calf socks and were not allowed to wear socks above their knees. But after 3 major disasters, Tokyo has also been rebuilt 3 times. The regulations in schools have been changed again. The school's requirement has been changed to require students to wear warm pantyhose. Girls like Chiyoki Kana, who don't care about appearance and beauty, blatantly violate school rules. What are they looking forward to? What are they trying to convey? Xia Tingfei glanced at the part of Chuyue Jedi that was not covered by socks, and the blue marks were not prominent. Chuyue Kana didn't care when she looked at Xia Tingfei. Walking towards the classroom, Xia Tingfei naturally followed behind her, admiring the girl's figure. Even if the girl asked, Xia Tingfei still had a reasonable excuse. We are all in the same classroom, on the same road, isn't it normal? Xia Tingfei prepared the answer, but did not wait for the question. But the girl didn't ask anything, just returned to the classroom safely. No one paid attention to the girl, and there were even a few who showed a slight disdain. Xia Tingfei did not enjoy this kind of treatment, and although he was also very indifferent to the book garden www.zhaozhuyuan.com, at least he was not despised. The girl's position was in front of Xia Tingfei, and as she watched Xia Tingfei pass by her side, she ignored her. Not even a disgusted expression appeared. The morning class is math class. The math teacher is an 8th generation T-shirt, and this teacher who is highly trusted and loved by students is just carrying a book. The teaching method is not much different from other teachers, but it can enable these first-year high school students to listen attentively. I just like to ask questions and say, so, let Chuyue answer the questions. Ba Dai pointed at the girl who had been silent all along, and everyone looked at her. Looking at her with some kind of fiber-like delicacy, yet ubiquitous malice. Like poor workers in asbestos mines, without any protection. Her fragile lungs were filled with hard and delicate malice, making her gasp for breath. Sorry, I don't know. Chuyue Kanai said something that almost every student has said. Just for a moment, the sound of a falling stone-like smirk fell. The girl's face remained unchanged, as if she had not heard any sound. But those 8 generations of T-shirts stopped this behavior. He said, respect others. That gentle smirk turned into a burst of laughter. The 8th generation T-shirt could only wave her hand and let the girl sit down. Alright, the next one will answer. I don't know. Xia Tingfei stood up and answered so quickly. The burst of laughter that had just been stopped rang out again, and Xia Tingfang looked over one by one. Looked directly at those classmates who turned their heads to look over. Chapter 8. Expectations and Blocked Home Visits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No one wants to look at each other, no one wants to be embarrassed. Farce is easy to disappear. Alright, sit down. 8th generation T-shirt smiled bitterly and began to talk about annoying business matters, but no one else asked questions anymore. Xia Tingfei wrote and painted on paper, folding it into a stack. They are in a row against the wall, next to the window that can see the courtyard. She poked the girl's back with a pencil, but she ignored it. Just looking at the empty snow outside the window. That pencil persisted once again, then gave up. Just for a moment, the girl felt her fingers sliding on her back again. Photos Chuyue Kana was very distressed and turned her head to look at Xia Tingfang. But she only saw him shaking a stack of paper, so she had to grab it and unfold it. I helped you, you have to repay me, there is such handwriting written on it. Fool. Chuyue Kana's face remained unchanged, and writing this word meant throwing it to the back. The girl made up her mind to ignore the people behind her. Xia Tingfei took the stack of paper, but threw it out the window without even looking. He didn't care about the girl's answer. The paper ball flashed past the girl's eyes. The girl only felt disgust in her heart, deeper. Xia Tingjun and Chuyue, remember to come to the office after class. The abrupt words of the 8th generation shirt caught the attention of others. Xia Tingfei just lowered his head and responded with a yes. Chuyue Kana lifted her head and looked at the 8th generation T-shirts and the others. So annoying, disgusting, disgusting, so disgusting, so annoying. Yes. She said so, her voice hoarse and distorted. It's extremely strange, and Chuyue Kana didn't even expect her voice to turn like this. She fell silent. Okay, that's it. The 8th generation T-shirt tapped on the blackboard, attracting the attention of many people. Now, continue teaching. Until the end of class, the names of the two were never mentioned by the 8th generation T-shirt again. And Chuyue Kana's back was never poked again. This made Chuyue Kana, who had already prepared a stomach full of venom, feel extremely frustrated. Alright, class is over. Xia Tingjun and Chuyue will come with me. 8 generations of T-shirts knocked on the blackboard and walked out of the classroom. Has class already ended? Chuyue-kana watched as the classroom suddenly became noisy. Oh, class has already ended. She slowly tidied up her books and then prepared to go to the office. There seems to be a silent halo around her, and wherever she goes, there will be a sound stopping. Fool. The girl walked out of the classroom with a stern expression. The school building presents an L shape, with the teaching building in that horizontal section and the vertical section used as a comprehensive building. And the office is in that vertical direction, passing by a corner. Xia Tingfang had been waiting there for a long time, holding a box of pink strawberry milk and sucking on it. After seeing the girl approaching, she casually threw the milk into the trash can. He can't do anything specifically to buy milk for girls. Trouble. Looking at Xia Tingfang, the girl frowned and had no expression on her face. Xia Tingfang didn't care and followed her to the office. The girl quickened her pace, with short hair that was shoulder length and fluttering, and a shaky hem on her skirt. Dong dong, come on in. Xia Tingfei reached out and pushed open the door, inside which there were about 10 teachers. 2 rows of tables were pieced together in the middle of the office, and the teachers sat opposite each other. There is a computer on the table and a pile of somewhat old books. On the wall of the office, there is a small door. Behind that door is another room, which is divided into 3 or 4 small single rooms using gypsum boards near the window. Most students are here to have heart-to-heart conversations with teachers or to be scolded and criticized. Sit down. 8th generation T-shirt sat on a small sofa in a single room and pointed to the small sofa across from her. Xia Tingfei and Chuyue Kanai were both deadlocked, and no one moved. 2 people sitting on a small sofa must be crowded inside. 8 generations of T-shirts looked at the 2 of them, scrutinizing them. Xia Tingfang pushed the girl down, forcing her to squeeze inside while she sat outside. It's so crowded. The girl sat with legs side by side, coquettishly at the bottom. But the small sofa is just so big, no matter how petite she is, she must be next to Xia Tingfei. Winter clothes are warm and thick, and Chuyue-kana feels even more unhappy. But she just had a cold face and remained silent. However, she felt her legs being pinched by something hard and cold. Looking down, it turned out to be Xia Tingfei's phone. The white flip phone fell half out of Xia Tingfei's pocket, revealing most of it. If you want to delete that photo yourself, you can secretly bring your phone over now and easily delete it. Chuyue-kana lifted her head and looked at the 8th generation T-shirt teacher. Are you guys in a relationship? The 8th generation T-shirt knocked on the table and asked a question. Ha! I thought I was just being criticized, why was I asked such a question? Are you a romantic brain? Xia Tingfei, who made a sound, looked at the man in front of him who couldn't conceal his fatigue. Listening to Xia Tingfei's surprised voice, Ba Daisu looked at him and said, aren't you? What little notes are you passing? No. Chuyue-kana lowered her eyes and looked at the cheap and smooth ink tabletop in front of her. Don't be in a hurry to deny it. Ba Dai-tia looked at something delicate and fragile on Chuyue-kana's head. After all, the teacher is also from this age, and it's not surprising that you have this kind of emotion. After all, your relationship with others in the class is not good, and it is only natural for you to become friends. It is understandable that having a front and back desk can lead to romantic relationships. Love. Favorite feelings. Chuyue-kana glanced at Xia Tingfei and looked for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, only to feel that what Ba Daisu said seemed like a joke. But seeing the action of Chuyue Jedi, Ba Dai's shirt knocked on the table and said, you students are still prohibited from doing this. He took a large file folder from the side and flipped through the files inside, saying, I found it. The place where you live is very close, isn't it? So tonight, I'm going to visit your home and I'll notify your parents in advance. 8 generations of T-shirts knocked on the table, waiting for answers from the 2 people across from them. Yes. Chuyue Kanai answered easily, while Xiatingfei nodded casually. Alright, you guys go back. 8 generations of T-shirts waved their hands to drive the 2 away. After leaving the classroom, there were no other people around. If it's really a home visit, would you take the teacher to see that warehouse? Xia Tingfang suddenly spoke up. Chuyue Kana paused in her footsteps and turned to look at Xiatingfei. There is no emotion in the eyes, only a calm indifference. This good teacher, if she knew you were beaten and abused by your mother, she would definitely help you, at least help you break away from that family. Xiatingfei said, you must be looking forward to it, after all, you never use pantyhose to cover your wounds. You must be waiting for someone to discover and save you. But I'm sorry. Xiatingfei took out his phone and edited a message on it. Chuyue seems to be looking forward to this home visit. So, I will take Chuyue back very late. Press the button with a snap. Sent, recipient. Akemi Chuyue. Chapter 9. Morikawa, modified. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Are you a fool? The girl turned her face to look at the snow outside. Junior high school students wouldn't use such a stupid way to attract girls' attention. Using this intentional prank. Ha. Xiatingfei couldn't help but laugh and said, I just hate you. I hate a weak girl like you. He pointed at the girl's eyes and said, I hate girls like you. I don't like girls like you. So, please be patient. Swallow tears and bitterness, endure the cold wind and snow. If you could punch me now, I would feel a little happier. Xia Tingfang looked at the young girl, who lowered her eyes and couldn't see her amber-like eyes. After all, he didn't say anything or take any action. Even though she didn't use her usual venomous tongue, she just remained silent. Looking at the girl's profile, Xiatingfei shook his hand and left. Chuyue Kana stood in front of the vending machine, wanting to buy a bottle of strawberry milk, but just touched her pocket. But he didn't even have a single dollar. She pursed her lips and stood in front of the window, watching the winter snow. As long as I finish high school, I can leave here and go anywhere else. I want to go to distant small islands, to small islands that nobody has, to small islands that have no pain or sadness. There are no teachers, no one, no mother, only myself. When I want to climb trees, I will climb trees. When I want to swim, I can swim, and I can do anything. As long as I think of the streets where only I am not around, my mood becomes very relaxed. I want to go far, far places. She was stunned and lost in thought, counting down every second. Hello, class is coming. An old man walked out of the office, Mediterranean, with gray hair. Yes. Chuyue Kana walked quickly towards the classroom, where everyone sat in their seats and looked at Chuyue Kana, who was different from others, all laughing and giggling. Chuyue Kana walked expressionlessly towards her seat, with some footprints on her desk. Very light. The girl didn't care and didn't even wipe it, so she placed the book on the table. From then on, she never went out again that day. After class, preview the content of the next class and steadily flip through the pages of the book during class. Until the end of school. Dong dong. Knocking on Chuyue Kanai's desk, Xiatingfei pointed outside and said, just leave your backpack here. Anyway, you don't have time to do homework like an ordinary person when you go back. Because you get beaten every time you come home. Xiatingfei looked at Chuyue Kanai, waiting for her reaction. Chuyue Kana silently packed her backpack and carried it on her back. Amber-like eyes looked at Xiatingfei, moist and sparkling, carrying something indescribable. Do you want it? In the empty classroom, there were only her and him, and the heating in the classroom made Xiatingfei's lips dry. Chuyue Kanai's lips are coated with some kind of cheap lipstick. To prevent chaps. This is also within the allowable range of the school. Her lips were sparkling and looked extremely delicious. If you want, I can give it to you. Chuyue Kana said, like lending out a pencil or an eraser. But Xia Tingfei knew that Chuyue Kanai had only said such things to herself. How many times are you going to say such things? Xia Tingfei didn't answer Chuyue Kana's question. You're covered in scars and bruises everywhere. Do you think you're cute? You're just an ugly woman. Of course, this is a lie. The girl doesn't have any scars on her body, and even the blue and purple scars will be eliminated by her mother using ice. Because her mother doesn't want anyone to notice. After speaking, he looked at Chuyue Kana. The girl walked out of the classroom silently, with Xia Tingfei following behind her. When she walked out of the campus, 8th generation T-shirt happened to see them. A red line flashed in his eyes as he tapped on the windowsill. Xia Tingfei is preparing to take a tram to Morikawa, as the tram to Morikawa is old. The station is only a small one, and the only place to rest is the 2 rows of wooden chairs on the platform. There is a vending machine next to the wooden chair, and there is a small canopy above it, which prevents the wooden chair from being covered with snow and getting wet. Xia Tingfang sat on it, waiting for the arrival of the tram. The tram is old-fashioned, with carriages connected one by one, and when it stops at the platform, it still makes a creaking sound. The car body only has 3 carriages, but now it seems that even 3 carriages are somewhat redundant. There were only a few people in the car, carrying backpacks and holding cameras, constantly extending out the window and taking pictures with a click. Only railway houses would sit on this old-fashioned tram and come and go, shouting and screaming at the creaking sound of their wheels rolling. However, Chuyue's face was too delicate and her expression was too cold. For the railway mansion, it was simply an untouchable sun. Xia Tingfang looked at those railway houses, and they were indeed a bit uncomfortable, secretly running into other carriages. Zhaozhuyuan.com. Then, the exclamation of surprise rang out again. Xia Tingfang sat by the window, looked at the front of the car, pushed open the window, and let the cold wind in. He likes this cold feeling. Chuyue Kana sat behind Xia Tingfang, looking at the rear of the car and the scenery passing outside. Pale snow layers, black broken stones, shiny tracks. So, it's like this outside. She listened to the cheers and cheers of the railway house in another carriage, but suddenly felt a little envious in her heart. Alright, here we are. While Chuyue Kana was feeling drowsy, Xia Tingfei had already stood up. The girl looked out and found herself in a completely unfamiliar place. The name of the platform reads, Morikawa. Follow me. Xia Tingfei spoke out, and the girl obediently walked towards the outside. The streets of Morikawa are much better than where they live, with densely packed electric wires that cut through the sky like spider webs, numerous utility poles, and large areas of single household buildings. All of these add a touch of antiquity to this place, and most of the people walking on the streets are elderly, which makes it look a bit aging. However, it is precisely like this that everything here is peaceful. Chuyue Kana also looked around, looking at the houses surrounded by low walls and the trees planted inside. Everything here is different. She looked at the vast scenery of Morikawa and felt a bit confused. Hey, don't be stunned. Xia Tingfei looked at the stunned girl and said, we have other things to do today. He shouted and walked towards the nearby park. There are the most elderly people there. Chapter 10. The Pity of Wives and Wives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Evergreen plants are planted everywhere in Mori River, mostly due to concerns about elderly people living in groups here. Perhaps it is because this place is filled with evergreen plants that it attracts so many elderly people to settle down. Xia Tingfei is unknown, and the current Tokyo is already Tokyo after the third reconstruction, which has long been different from the previous Tokyo. Even in winter, the whole place is covered in green. Old ladies like to wear thick coats, sit on benches in the park with long scarves, and boast to other old ladies about how good their bodies are. It's completely different from the Qianzhou district where I live. It's quiet and peaceful here. The girl followed behind Xia Tingfang and walked towards the ordinary park. Retired grandma, task. Searching for cats, reward. Slight vegetable and possibility to earn money, ordinary grandma, task. Relieve loneliness, reward. Good impression, a certain specialty. Grandma with rheumatology, task. Solving illness and pain, reward. Favorite impression, small amount of money. Xia Tingfang looked at the titles of several elderly people, as well as several tasks, and made a decision. He grabbed Chuyuegana's hand and walked quickly to the side of those old ladies. Good afternoon. The old ladies looked at these two people curiously and said, "What's up?" "I'm a volunteer." Xia Tingfei smiled and pointed to herself, then to Chuyuegana. This girl, due to family reasons, also came out to volunteer. Volunteer. Family reasons. The old ladies looked at Xia Tingfei and Chuyuegana, but in the end, Chuyuegana's pitiful face reassured the elderly. "Grandma, do you have any difficulties? I can help." Xia Tingfei smiled falsely and pointed falsely at herself, displaying a very false appearance. "Oh my, I lost my cat." The short old lady said, "That's my granddaughter's favorite cat. She has to sleep with it every day. It's just that she lost it a few days ago, and the granddaughter cried for a long time, but she couldn't find it. Her mother has to go to work, so she doesn't have time to find it. I can't find it either. My granddaughter cried for a long time." "Hey," the old lady said. "If you can find it, I will definitely give you a reward." The reward is not important." Xia Tingfei smiled and said, "Because I am a volunteer." False, counterfeit. The girl looked at Xia Tingfei performing, her face expressionless. "Grandma, what does a cat look like?" "It's pure white." "That's really a beautiful cat," Xia Tingfei exclaimed. "Your granddaughter will definitely put some accessories on it." "Ah, there's a small red bell. It's engraved with the words West Palace," said the mother.in.law. "If I know my mother.in.law, I'll go help find her. Xia Tingfei should come down and look at Chuyuegana. This beautiful girl, let's chat with us old ladies." The wives were overjoyed as they looked at the beautiful and lovely Chuyuegana, holding her hand and refusing to let her go. Xia Tingfei didn't care either. When he came just now, he saw a white cat on the treetop. "Good child, what's your name?" In the park, the wives and grandmothers all sat beside them holding the baby Moongana. The old man has a mint smell on his body, like the one used to smoke clothes. There is a special smell, like smelling it when I was a child. Chuyuegana felt very relieved, her tense body and iron-pursed lips couldn't help but relax. Chuyuegana, she said, "is that your brother?" The old lady from Shigong did not follow the family routine, but asked her seriously. Chuyuegana didn't understand the old man's meaning and said, "No." "Did you get bullied by him?" The old lady from Shigong asked the girl again, making her even more puzzled. "Bullying? Is that considered bullying?" The girl was a bit puzzled, so she said truthfully, "No, he's a classmate." "What's wrong with the injury on your body?" The old lady of Shigong looked worried at this girl who was about the same age as her granddaughter, equally cute and immature. "Shigong, didn't that boy mention it just now?" "It must be due to family reasons," said another old lady, patting the girl's knee. "Is it your father's drunken domestic violence?" the third wife asked. "I don't have a father." Chuyuegana had no expression, just tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. The blue-purple lump stood out prominently on the snowy and greasy thighs. Wives and women all sighed and remained silent. The other two old ladies looked at the old lady in the West Palace, who sighed to herself. "Is this girl's family also a single-parent family?" Moreover, it is one of those violent and unfortunate single-parent families. Like my family, they are both single-parent families. However, my granddaughter is much luckier and happier than this girl. The old lady of Shigong thought. My daughter is also raising her 2 granddaughters alone. Now that I can still help her, I really don't know what suffering she will suffer after I die. What kind of crime is it? Good child, you have really suffered. The old lady of Shigong sighed and touched the hair of Chuiwegana. The first time someone said this to themselves. The first time. Chuiwegana's eyes were moist, and her pink lips moved. I wanted to say something, but my throat seemed to be blocked and I couldn't say anything. As long as you graduate from high school, that's all. Chuiwegana choked up, trying to hold back her tears. Wives and women all sigh, but there is no way. After all, this is her family business. By the way, is that classmate your boyfriend? The elderly people smiled cunningly again, trying to change the topic. In order to protect you, I specifically brought you out of home. He is not my lover, just a classmate. Chuiwegana said silently. When my mother-in-law was young, there were also times like this, the wives said in a flurry of words. Because I was shy or something, I didn't dare to admit it. But oh, don't be shy. Missing fate because of shyness is what we regret the most in the future. Wives and mother-in-law all said this, and Chuiwegana was only shocked in her heart. How could that boy be a good boyfriend? It's really not true. Chuiwegana emphasized again that the wives and mother-in-law looked at each other and stopped talking. This girl is really shy. However, since she comes from such a family environment, it is only natural for her to have such a personality. Wives and mother-in-law all looked at this girl with pity, silently lamenting the sadness of her life.